If you have an existing weakness or an existing problem, it will get exacerbated during the campaign. The campaign won't fix it. How does it leave your organization stronger than it was when your campaign started? Figure out where they need to be in 18, 24 months so that you know that they're in that place where they're going to hear you and respond to this campaign in the right way.
You're listening to The Nonprofit Boost, where Double the Donation and industry leaders share practical tips to help you grow revenue and boost corporate fundraising at your nonprofit.
For many mid-sized nonprofits and schools, the leap from standard annual giving to planning your very first comprehensive or capital campaign feels a lot like jumping off of a cliff. You know you need the funds to scale your mission, build that new facility, or secure that endowment. But the sheer magnitude of a multi-year campaign can be terrifying as it is exciting. Welcome back to the Nonprofit Boost podcast by Double the Donation. Today, we are diving deep into the crucial steps for your first campaign. If your board has started throwing the word campaign around, but you aren't exactly sure if your organization is ready to pull that trigger or how to avoid the most common pitfalls once you do, this episode is for you. And to help us navigate this massive milestone, I am thrilled to welcome Kevin Allan, the Chief Executive Officer at Changing Our World. Changing Our World is a social impact consultancy that guides nonprofits and companies through transformational fundraising and organizational development. Kevin brings a truly unique perspective to the table because he sat on both sides of the desk. As a strategic counselor, he has advised global powerhouses like UNICEF, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and Texas Children's Hospital. But he has also been in the trenches as a practitioner. He has spearheaded massive fundraising programs for organizations like AmeriCares, where he oversaw more than $575 million in annual private support. With a master's in nonprofit management and a deep personal passion for helping organizations scale their work for vulnerable populations, Kevin knows exactly what it takes to drive unprecedented growth. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kathleen. So happy to be here.
Awesome. I think we can just jump right into it. Now, Kevin, Changing Our World has guided countless organizations through massive transformational fundraising initiatives. And for many mid-sized nonprofits and schools, the leap from standard annual giving to planning their very first comprehensive or capital campaign is very exciting, but also very, very terrifying. Now, from your vantage point, what are the key internal indicators that tell an organization you're actually ready for your first major campaign versus just dreaming about one?
First thing is you've got to have an idea that you want to fund. You've got to have a big transformational idea, something that's sort of worthy of a campaign, worthy of asking people to dig deeper. And so, thinking about that case for support, are the outcomes compelling and urgent, and would they make a donor reach deeper and maybe give you a multi-year pledge that maybe they hadn't considered they would ever do before. So that's one, just knowing that you have a determined need. I think the second thing is, and we always look at this, is are there a sufficient number of prospects relative to the goal? So do we have enough people who could give us, six-figure gifts, high five-figure gifts, four-figure gifts, and does that ladder up to a viable target? And if you have that, are those people kind of connected enough to you? So what's the nature of their engagement? And if people are calling you back, if you have more two-way relationships than one-way relationships, that's sort of a sign of donor engagement and maybe that your donors are ready. And then lastly, you want to look at the indicators within your fundraising program. Are you finding that your retention is lagging? Are you seeing a decline in the size of major gifts? If there's some of those sort of key indicators, you want to look closely at them before you say, okay, we're ready to launch a campaign. Because often what will need to happen in advance of the idea for a campaign and actually launching the campaign is donors getting closer to you and feeling a part of it. And that can take time. And the other part is you have that time then to sort of improve some indicators in your program so that once you get into campaign mode, you start flying.
Right. And whether it is building that or like determining your need or having that connected engagement, as you've mentioned, really getting that foundation clearly at step one is really, really important.
Yeah.
Now, one of the first milestones there is in determining what's actually achievable. Organizations often hear about feasibility studies, campaign readiness assessment, prospect pipelines, and campaign goals, but it can all feel very overwhelming because it's a lot all at once. So, how should nonprofit leaders think about determining the right campaign goal? And what are the biggest misconceptions organizations have about what it really takes to raise those transformational gifts?
You have to sort of meet in the middle on your campaign goal. How much is your vision going to cost you?
Mm-hmm.
And how close sort of could your fundraising program reasonably take you there? And sometimes, when we do a feasibility study, we'll test a $40 million goal and we'll come back and say, oh my gosh, your donors are so excited about this. We think you should be thinking about a $50 million campaign. Other times we'll go back and say, well, right now, probably your donors are only about ready to support a $20 million campaign. But if we do these things over the next 6, 12, 18 months, you could probably improve what your outcomes would be. So I think one is that feasibility study is really an opportunity to hear from your donors, hear where they are, hear what they think, not just about the campaign's purpose, but how they feel about your organization and kind of their personal hopes and dreams. And through that, you can start to see what their level of investment potentially could be here. And at the same time, your feasibility study should be looking at your internal practices, right? Because if you start operating a campaign, all of a sudden you've got to shoulder the weight of increased revenue, increased activity, increased donor engagement. And so do you really have the capacity to keep that? Is the capacity strong enough to support that, or where do we need to build up that foundation? I think what it really takes to create transformational gifts is having a social problem or an opportunity for your school or nonprofit that's, again, worthy and exciting to a donor sort of their investment, right? First step, we need to excite people. And then we need to demonstrate to them that it's possible, that they're not out on a limb by themselves. Maybe they're a key part of you being out there, but they're not by themselves. There's sort of a community that they're going to be a part of or maybe lead into achieving this. And that gives confidence that this is going to go somewhere and not depend completely on me as the donor. And then lastly, I think, by the time you're sitting in front of someone and you're asking them to consider something that's larger than they've ever considered before, and maybe you're nervous heading into that conversation because you've never asked for something that big before. By the time you get there, you should have a pretty good sense of how that donor likes to engage, how that donor is that meeting going to best happen at a restaurant, best happen in their living room, best happen at your office. You get to know these relationships, and it's not one size fits all, and so you pursue it that way. But I think the big thing is, right, we've got a big, bold vision that your support's critical for. You're going to be part of a community that is going to make this happen, and we're going to talk to you about that in the way that you're going to hear it best.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating how much of it comes down to setting realistic expectations and really truly understanding the donors that you already have rather than chasing that mythical savior. And I also really loved how you mentioned the sense of community, because I think that sense of belonging really helps the donors to engage more in your organization, and not only engage more, but actually feel like they're part of it. And you've mentioned it's not one size fits all. It's definitely catering to what they need and where they are, meeting them where they are. I really love those points, Kevin.
Part of it is donors being part of that community that's going to make the thing happen. But part of it is also sort of organizing your internal community. I mean, a campaign can just be a great way to get your team on the same page, right? Here's our programmatic initiatives. Here's how finance is going to support our growth. Here's what development's role is going to be and how they're going to provide the sort of feedback to the institution so that the institution can understand not just how much money is coming in, but what money will be coming in, what money may be coming in, and really organizing around sort of that central case, which sometimes organizations can struggle to do.
Nonprofits are always being asked to do more with limited time and resources. Double the Donations virtual summits offer practical insights, expert advice, and actionable ideas to help you grow your impact. Check out the summit calendar and register at doubletheDonation.com/virtual-summits. We'll see you there.
Now, I know once you set that goal, once that campaign actually goes public, there's a new reality that sets in though. That initial excitement kind of peaks, but keeping that momentum over like a 3-5 year pledge period can be like very, very incredibly tough. Suddenly, like donor stewardship and data hygiene, they aren't just best practices anymore. They become the lifeblood of the campaign's success.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, where do you see first-time campaign teams drop the ball during that messy middle phase? And what systems help sustain donor engagement and campaign momentum?
Well, hopefully we've done our work so that we're ready and we can avoid that. But in the instances where surprises happen or things fall through the cracks, there's probably a few places where it keeps happening. But I think overall, if you have a existing weakness or an existing problem, it will get exacerbated during the campaign. The campaign won't fix it unless you have sort of a purposeful fix. So if you're slow at getting acknowledgements out, if you're not getting in front of your donors in a sort of a conversational way annually, if you're miscoding their gifts, like those things kind of all add up to sort of weaken or at least maybe soften the relationship a little bit. Mostly what you want to do is stay close to people, right? So we think about a campaign, maybe there's a 3-year timeline, maybe it's a 5-year timeline. I've given $1 million, right? So that's $200,000 over the next 5 years. We've counted my million. We asked for my million the first 6 months of the campaign. I'm going to start paying it annually. By the time I make my second payment, you're on to a whole bunch of other donors, and I'm just sort of making my payment. But we have to think you're not just making your payment. That donor, yes, they made that big gift over multi-years, but like they're thinking about you in a lot of ways like an annual support. And so just like your annual supporters, as they play off that pledge, are you keeping them close? Are you keeping them informed? How are you helping them know that we're getting close, your money's being well spent, all that good stuff that makes people feel like, oh, this campaign wasn't about sitting down in front of me and asking me for money and then going away when I gave it. This was about me being a part of something that's really big for this institution.
Completely agree. Like maintaining that human energy over a multi-year sprint is very, very difficult. And it's really clear, as you've mentioned, that being intentional about stewardship is not it's not negotiable. It's a non-negotiable now.
Yeah.
Kevin, while major individual philanthropy typically drives most first campaigns, many organizations also explore corporate partnerships and employee engagement to broaden support. So where do corporate partnerships fit within a campaign, and how can organizations determine whether they're a meaningful opportunity versus simply like a nice complement to individual fundraising?
In terms of engaging the corporate sector in your campaign, sort of like every other question, it depends a little bit on what corporate players we're talking about, whether you're looking at a regional office or a national, sort of headquarters. It matters where alignment is with that company. So unfortunately, my answer is it depends. But what I would say is, as you start thinking about a campaign, engaging your existing corporate partners in what you're looking to do is helpful. Some companies may not be interested in supporting campaigns. I don't think you should take that as we're not interested in getting involved in your campaign. They may not be thinking about a campaign in terms of their annual support, but they are thinking about employee engagement, and their employees can be like, a great route to you, not just to sort of validate you in the community and to be ambassadors in the community when you're communicating with their employees, but also, prospects themselves or access to other networks. And so really thinking about your existing corporate partnerships is key. Campaigns can certainly be acquisition related events for corporates. There's simply certain, if I'm doing a library campaign in a town, I might turn to some of those businesses that maybe otherwise aren't connected to the library, but there may be some key naming opportunities. There may be some special things that come up with the campaign that we would want to talk to them about. But again, anytime you're talking to a company, you got to think through the lens of what is important to them. So don't start the conversation with what's important to you. Start the conversation with, we know and understand based on our relationship, our research, what so-and-so told us, that you really care about your employees having volunteer opportunities, that you really care about getting feedback that you can post on your intranet about, right, the work that you're doing with organization X or Y. So I think thinking about the company, what's important to it, and then asking your question, so if that's what's important to it, does it make sense to engage them in the campaign? And you may answer that different ways. For some, it may be, hey, I want to let you update you on what we're doing and maybe see where that conversation goes. Maybe it's we're just going to normal course of action. Maybe it's, oh my gosh, I think this company could really support this in a big way and it would be right for them. And then you kind of pursue the conversation as feels right.
Yeah, and I think to just tie it in with the trend that we've mentioned across like our conversation is like engaging our donors. It's very, very crucial, and they can actually be the ambassadors, as you've mentioned, to these like corporate giving things. When an organization actually bakes matching gifts or workplace giving into their campaign strategy from day one, I think they aren't just crossing their fingers for like a massive corporate brand as well. They're empowering their individual donors to unlock those corporate philanthropy on their behalf. And really like organically blending a donor's personal passion with their employer's CSR goals as well, which is an incredible, effective way to double that impact or double the impact of those like mid-level campaign gifts. Now, Kevin, hitting that financial goal of a first campaign is obviously, of course, the primary objective, but going through this process fundamentally changes an organization's culture and trajectory. Now, looking beyond just the final dollar amount, what is the most important long-term organizational transformation that a nonprofit should strive for by the time that they close their first campaign?
Kathleen, I feel like I'm going to keep disappointing you because I'm going to say it depends.
I totally get it though.
But I would say that every campaign should have two objectives, right? What's the money you want to raise? We got to raise the money. But like, how does it leave your organization stronger than it was when your campaign started? So if you think about your development program, how's your development program stronger? At the end of a campaign, I want to see that my average total contributions have sort of made a step change up, right? So if I was at 8 million a year, I want to be at 10 million a year, 12 million a year, whatever it is. And your job is to try to maintain that level, right? And you have the opportunity to do it because you've established higher habits and patterns of giving amongst your constituency. So the idea that, okay, the campaign's over, I can go back to being a $15,000 donor instead of the $1 million donor that I told you earlier. You want to combat that. You want to say, Kevin, you had such an amazing experience. The funds that you were providing over the last year did this. You feel great about it. Could we count on your continued support at this level? So you want to really be teeing yourself up so that after the campaign, you don't dip back down. You're staying up there. So I would look at things like your total donor count. I would look at donors across gift bands. So how many donors do you have that are giving over 1,000, over 5,000, over 10,000 before the campaign, through the campaign, after the campaign? And then what kind of should your target be as you're looking to grow? You want to look at your retention indicators. You want to understand the community that maybe got less connected over the campaign. What's your recapture strategy, but I think there's a bunch of things that you want to look for in during and post campaign so that you know that you're not just out there raising money, you're actually building a stronger organization that's able to sort of continue to thrive and grow after this major effort.
Oh my gosh, I love that phrasing. I love that framing. It's not just about racing or like building all of these touch points of successes. I really loved how you mentioned, Kevin, that it's also having that continued support and fundamentally making that organization stronger. And I think it's really like when that culture of philanthropy clicks, it pays dividends for decades. Now, to close us out, we love to give our listeners something that they can act on the moment that they walk into their offices. What is one thing that a development director can do today to start preparing the groundwork for their first campaign?
If you're thinking about your first campaign, and the truth is, if you're thinking about your fourth, fifth, or sixth campaign, the truth is, there's going to be a few donors, and that's relative to kind of your size and your structure, but there's going to be a few things that have to happen that are really consequential. Like, this donor is going to really have to support us at this level and do it first if we're going to be successful. Or this donor is going to have to do this if we're going to raise 20 million. Otherwise, we're probably going to raise 17 million. So whatever that dynamic is, think about who those people are. Who are the people in your network that are most consequential to the campaign, right? Board members, donors, lapsed donors. And you don't need to do an exhaustive list, but really those people that will, if they fall in the right way, that means you have a party to plan. And if they don't, you've got to sort of adjust your strategy. And so I would say, figure out who those people are, figure out where they need to be in 18, 24 months so that you know that they're in that place where they're going to hear you and respond to this campaign in the right way. And really think about what are the next 3 things I need to do with this person? And what are the 3 things that I need to do after that, and really sort of start to bring those people along so that when you're ready to do a feasibility study, you're not calling them up and saying, hey, we're thinking about building a building and we want to have our consultants come and ask you about it. They'll say, hey, you know that thing that we've been talking about? We're getting close to figuring out exactly how we're going to do this. I've talked to you about this. You've got so much, information about how we work. Would you talk to our consultants and sort of advise, give them some perspective? And then those people are a part of it, right? You've brought them along. They're ready to go with you. They're advising it with you. And that can be really transformational.
I really love that. That's such a powerful and very actionable advice, like figuring those people out and bringing them along in this journey. And yeah, Kevin, thank you so much. This has been such an absolute masterclass in campaign strategy. And thank you again for being here. Now, for any listeners out there who wants to connect with you or the team at Changing Our World to really keep this conversation going, where is the best place to find you?
You can find us at changingourworld.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find the company on LinkedIn, or you can always email us at info@changingourworld.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Nonprofit Boost podcast. Make sure to subscribe and keep on boosting that impact. Bye.
Here's your next steps. Visit doublethedonation.com to explore the tools and strategies that schools and nonprofits use to unlock more revenue through corporate fundraising. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share the video with your team and peers.